With every game dev and universe starting out developing a tower defense game, Dawn of Defense finally stirs up the formula. Offering a mix between Warcraft 3 inspired graphics, roguelite progression, tower defense and RTS mechanics, we are firmly placed in the era of mixing as many genres as possible into a single game. Already in the demo there is procedurally generated maps as well to encourage multiple runs. We're starting out with a simple bolt scot, the arrow tower you see in every single tower defense since the beginning of time. After each round we get to select a new rune. We'll unlock the tier 1 upgrades for our bolt scot this time, and with that the first round is over. Time to move out and engage with the RTS section of the game. We're only able to build towers on islands that we control. Different islands provide different benefits as well. Some boosts your unit's power, some heal them, and so on. This one with the 3 rocks provides an additional selection of runes. We take the Skullbreaker. Mead Hall will also help with economy, providing an increased amount of gold each round. This one is actually really strong at the end game. We're getting invaded! Get them! That went well. Hogwald knows what's up. Let's take advantage of this and keep pushing into the enemy territory as well. Next upgrade. Hardened Bow 1. Increasing the bolt scot damage by 4. We can also start building up an army at this point. Hogwald can't hold off forever on his own. For now, we only have 1 unit we can actually build, with some additional ones available in the demo. I expect and hope that more units will be available in the future. For now, we only have the Axemen available. Skullbreaker on the middle island here would be making a lot of sense. Good coverage there, actually. Any buildings you build on the islands that are taken over by enemies will be destroyed, making this the safer play. But this choke point directly at the enemy's fortress might actually be worth the risk. We're already able to build up a small army that should be able to keep it safe. The Skullbreaker isn't the best for single target damage, obviously, and our first boss-like creature almost reaches all the way to our base. All of these upgrades are pretty good, but I have found the Skullbreaker to be incredibly strong if you're able to stack it outside of the enemy's fortress. One for this corner makes a lot of sense as well. The area coverage is really good. The added RTS aspects really helps with the downtime you usually get with tower defense games. You build towers as needed to protect the lanes, and then you spend the rest of the time building up and defending your islands using the RTS mechanics. While I've heard no plans for multiplayer, the potential isn't completely lost on me here. The new upgrades we have for the Skullbreaker either adds attack speed or area size. Interesting that both of these are actually marked as placeholders. I wonder what they will come up with for the full release. I tend to prefer the attack speed one for now. Not sure I like that you can see interactable items through the fog. Kinda defeats the purpose of Fog of War in the first place. The enemy is slowly squeezing their way into our areas. Time to put them in their place. We can also push in on the islands next to their fortress. This gives us direct line of fire on the waves as they spawn. You might think pushing in and killing the fortress right now is a good option. I've done this a few times already and instantly died. As the enemy fortress dies, you'll have a massive wave attack with an incredibly strong boss as well. So from here on, our mission is going to be defending the islands that we have already captured. Which means we will have to split up our armies and limit the available routes the enemy can take to attack our islands in the first place. Most enemy waves at this point doesn't even make it past our first line of defense with the Skullbreakers. We will continue building up Skullbreakers outside of the enemy's fortress as well. We're also expanding our army, constantly reinforcing where the enemy is attacking each round. Without a minimap and limited warnings, it's really on you to monitor this constantly. You will find yourself being ran over, or even worse, your enemies baiting your army into doing something stupid. Trust me, it happens. Going north will help with the surface area we will have to actively defend. An extra rune upgrade doesn't hurt either. of attention to increase the Skullbreaker's range. I'm not sure how I feel about the way bridges work. Right now, the best way to expand your territory is through counterattacks, as you won't carry the gold cost when using bridges the enemy has already built. Having the enemies break the bridge behind them if the attack fails could be an interesting twist to force you to allocate gold or other resources to expand. The game is teasing with the idea that the stones and the wooded areas on each island could be collected in the future, adding a more resource management aspect to the game as well. Maybe this could be used to implement a system that would be less impactful than an ever-increasing gold cost. Having the expansion mainly be a result of directly exploiting the enemy doesn't feel right to me. Together with this, a way to delete your own bridges would be nice as well. We'll now need to babysit our armies. I did play around with the different army stances as well. Defensive stance seems to make the unit stand its ground, without attacking anything that doesn't attack itself or very close by friendly units. On rare occasions, this will actually allow units to bypass your own units on the same island, which is kinda weird for a defensive stance. Natural stance seems to attack anything on the island and anything within a decent range around the unit, making it really prone to pushing into adjacent islands without prior input. Aggressive stance, on the other hand, seems to just be chaos. Attack anything that moves. I like to call this the bar brawl mode, which I guess is the only one that I can sort of agree with. As you can tell, there's no real good way to tell your units to defend an island, but never actually push into someone else's area. I would love for the defensive stance, for example, to always engage enemies on the islands it's on, but never actually crossing a bridge. We'll keep adding Skullbreakers outside of their fortress. We're not losing this one, team. Even then, the big boss units soak so much damage that lots of the smaller units makes it all the way to the Bolt Scots at the base before being shut down. Taking Skullbreaker Tier 2 upgrades should allow us to improve that. Either a placeholder upgrade linearly increasing the range itself, or what we actually want, which is the Soul Shard upgrade. Rocks shatter on impact, launching 2 shards at additional units, dealing 80% attack damage for each shard. There's a lot of enemies, but our Skullbreakers are back to absolutely dominating. Let's upgrade the remaining towers as well with the Soul Shards upgrade. Still bosses that's eating a lot of our damage up front. Skullbreakers really shine when they're able to spread out their damage over a larger area. We're having enemies at the gate and they really do hurt this time. Just barely made it out alive actually. More Skullbreaker damage from the runes and a bunch of Bolt Scots to deal with whatever makes it through our initial damage pit. Next round looks much better. Limited amount of large enemies really helps. As upgrade, we'll go with the tier 3 upgrade for the Skullbreaker. These are really expensive. 1200 gold for each of them, but at 150% attack damage and 50% area size, it makes these towers absolute beasts. Look at this, absolute comedy. Just for the sake of it, let's add some Bolt Scots just for the reassurance itself. Island tax will give us money at the end of each round, depending on how many islands we actually control, which will be needed to replenish all of these units that just decided to suicide towards their main base without me asking. Oh well, as long as the enemy doesn't capture the island we are actually building up our Bolt Scots on, we won't actually lose the towers at least. I don't need to tell you how bad that would be, right? I'm spread very thin here while having 3 islands to defend, and for some reason we're spreading out to a 4th. Thank you, army. Time to expand. That should help with army size at least. I'm trying to add multiple production buildings to a unit group here. You can actually add one for each hotkey, but not multiples unfortunately. So we'll just have to queue up 20 units in each barracks and assign them to send their units to each island separately. Despite this, they're breaking through to our main island. That's pretty bad news. Remember, our Skullbreakers is over there. Let's see if our production can actually overcome these big bastards. Do have a good steady flow of units, but more might be needed after all. Losing that island would be really bad. That's tens of thousands of towers worth that we'll just lose. Having to constantly left click to add new units gets old really fast. Hotkeys are standard practice today, and this game is missing it completely. No shift or control modifiers, and no hotkey on your keyboard you could hold or repeatedly click to add units instead of clicking your left mouse button constantly. The game is really promising, but there is a few things that could clearly be improved. Unit control and UX, fog of war, and various bridge mechanics to start with do need some work. With that said, a charming art style and a super interesting mix of genres does bode really well for the future of Dawn of Defense. That horn you're hearing in the background, by the way, that's the game being over. Our army walked over and captured the enemy base without me actually realizing. This is the big boy that spawns. He walked through our initial defenses, but didn't go very far after that. I've seen others have this issue as well, where the enemy is sometimes just taking actions that doesn't really align with the player's expectations. Let's add that to the list of gameplay improvements as well. Anyway, I guess a win is a win. I decided to show you this specific game hoping to highlight as many of the available mechanics as possible in the demo. Don't be surprised if you fail and doesn't win your first few rounds. To be honest, most of my runs are still failed today. The demo is out right now though, and includes a small timeline with their planned upcoming demo releases and updates, while building up for the full release. If you enjoyed this video, a subscription and a like does help me out a lot. I cover new and upcoming games that I play weekly here on the channel, so if you enjoyed that, button is right there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.